Coming up on Work It Out with Lauri, today we're talking about psychological safety in the workplace and employers' hesitation to take on that big task and options for targets other than changing jobs.
Lauri will answer your questions coming up on a brand new episode of Work It Out with Lauri.
Howdy, WVP crew. Welcome to Work It Out with Lauri, the no-nonsense show for anyone navigating workplace bullying, chaos, or straight-up dysfunction. I'm Lauri Lilly, your host. I'm here to help you make sense of all the drama you're experiencing at work.
And I'm Cosmo Esplin, Sir Showrunner and your backstage guide, directly providing Lauri with your questions and workplace dilemmas so you get the practical solutions you need. So what do you say? Let's work it out. All right, we're back. Ready for another question, Lauri?
I'm ready. Bring it.
All right, here we go. So this is a question from someone using a pseudonym by the name of Angelina. The question is, quote, why is the only solution to workplace bullying that the bullied person change jobs or leave the company? Why are companies reluctant to address psychological safety in the workplace? And I'd like to have a serious discussion about HR, why they aren't working for employees, and what options bullied people have other than changing jobs. A couple of questions with sub-questions within that overall question. So what do you have for us?
Okay, so I'm actually going to start with the last question and work my way backward. The discussion about HR. So I'll reference episode number 2. That one's a hot one, and I think we're going to continue to reference that.
Yeah, that seems to be... Everybody should watch that first, I think, before watching any of the other episodes.
That's right. But to give a quick recap, their role is to protect the interests of the company. And they have other roles, employee benefits, legal requirements. They do wonderful things for their employer and for the company. They hold an important role. The role that they do not have for anyone being bullied is any form of relief that's appropriate. To my knowledge and my professional experience, I have yet to come across an experience where an HR department offers appropriate relief for anyone who is being bullied.
So they should really be called more CR, company resources, than HR, human resources.
There you go. I like that. Right.
I'm going to trademark that.
There's a fundamental misunderstanding about any support, help, or relief that HR can provide. And to go back to this other question then, why is the only solution to workplace bullying that the bullied person change jobs? Well, the bully doesn't change, isn't going to change, never going to change, not going to happen. And beyond that, they're sponsored. This type of behavior, sabotage, manipulation, smear campaigns, mobbing, gossip, these types of behaviors in workplaces, that is such obvious, overt bullying behavior that you can't miss it. And so it's very obvious when this type of behavior is sponsored. It's part of the value system of the organization where you're working. The leaders are sponsoring it. The leaders are okay with these values.
Basically, either you have to change your location or the organization has to change, and the odds of that happening are pretty low. Those are the two options, really.
And there's a third, which is particularly dark, and I'll get to that. Fantastic point, Cosmo, in that there are a lot of people, they want to and believe they can change the culture of any organization.
That's a tough thing to do.
A single person, that is not possible, and more harm will be done. It's going to happen. Change of any sort of a value system in an operational culture, a work system, a work environment can take years. It takes alignment from leaders. It takes a plan. It takes commitment along with a lot of change management. It is impossible for one person to try and change the entire system. It really is. And I recommend anyone who thinks that they can achieve this, please put your own oxygen mask on first. Focus on your well-being and your health and your wellness, mental and physical, because you're going against a massive system. It's not just against the bully. It's not just against the bully and their sponsors or the mob. It's a system.
And the system is always going to be catering to the needs and desires of the shareholders and the customers rather than the actual employees. So it makes sense that that drastic change isn't going to come from inside. It's always going to probably come from outside.
That's right. It's really hard to do. It takes years. And so I express some caution here for anyone who's trying to do that. And the third option, which I had mentioned is fairly dark, it's typically the result of a grievance that has not gone in the target's favor. HR will then say that the target can move to a different department and they'll find another role for them somewhere else in the company.
Transferring.
And of course the bully gets to remain in their current role, held completely unaccountable for any of their bad behavior, the bullying and the abuse. But again, it's the target who's affected. And now the target has to move to a different role. I guess they don't have to. They're often given a choice, but that's a very tough one. When they've said, give me relief from this person, they're given an option. And if they don't take it, a lot of questions will be asked by HR.
They're being treated like the problem instead of the actual bully.
Which is typically the result of
Darvo.
Yep. That's right. There you go, Darvo.
I can finish your sentences now.
That's right.
I know your terms.
So it's fairly tough. And certainly they can, but why should the target be forced to move to a different part of the company when there's a reason they submitted a grievance? They like their job. They're really good at their job. They've always succeeded in their role. And they've probably felt at home in that role. They could have been there for years and years and years and years. And now simply because someone decided to target them and abuse them, the outcome of a grievance investigation lands them transferring to a different department. It could completely take them off track. And quite frankly, it's very unfair that the target is the one who, again, is forced to take the hit. And again, the bully goes away unaffected.
So working our way backwards, you've touched on this a little bit, the one part of the question, why are companies reluctant to address psychological safety in the workplace? What's the problem there?
I think more than anything, it's a lack of awareness. My goodness, they don't even understand bullying or psychological abuse, so far that I can tell. Maybe there's a handful, but overall, in patterns, there is a dramatic disparity here between the requirements of understanding what bullying and psychological abuse looks like and what I believe is the understanding and the knowledge level of the people who are receiving these complaints and grievances. They're not even on a kindergarten level here. Now we're asking them to understand psychological safety, which in my opinion is the complete opposite of psychological abuse. I don't think it's a concept or a theory that is well known right now. We need way more awareness about this particular very important concept in the workplace. And that requires leadership. And if leaders aren't aware of psychological safety, if they don't take that as a value that they're going to promote and live in their daily life at work, it's going nowhere fast. So we need to, as people who are educating and building awareness around bullying, we also need to be talking about psychological safety, and hopefully that there's a little bit of a hunger out there for this topic. But right now, it's just not well enough known, in my opinion. We talk a lot about it. I see a lot of things on LinkedIn about it. LinkedIn is a slice of the world, right? And I just don't think it's a concept that's very well known.
Particularly not within the organizations.
That's right.
So what do you want to say to people who are considering ushering in that next step of moving on from the current dynamics at their workplace?
It's entirely possible to find an employer that aligns with your value set. There is no perfect employer. It doesn't exist. That's why it's really important for anyone out there job searching to really nail down what are your values, what are your non-negotiables, and where is there a little bit of wiggle room. It takes a longer runway probably to find a job when you really lean into your value system, which again is why it's so important to have your support huddle. And your support huddle, if you're being bullied, at minimum needs to include a workplace bullying expert to help you strategize, a licensed mental health therapist who is trauma informed, friends, family, and loved ones who are empathetic, caring, and compassionate. Ideally, an ally or two at work. I think that might be a future episode, Cosmo, because
Good
this
call.
topic of allies is really nuanced and interesting and something that we need to talk through. But once you have your support huddle, you'll find that it's easier to navigate your day-to-day because you have more support, which gives you a longer runway to find that job that, again, is never going to be perfect. I don't think it exists. But to the extent that you can align your values with it and feel good about the fact that you're entering a psychologically safe workplace where there's true elite leaders, no imposter leaders at the helm, that's what you're looking for. So reach out today, schedule an initial consult with me if you want to strategize a plan to minimize the harm of the abuse and navigate a positive path forward.
This has been a packed episode, but thank you for supplying your signature expertise.
Thanks, Cosmo. Happy to be here. Thanks so much for tuning in to Work It Out with Lauri. If today's episode hit home at all, please share it with someone who needs it. And please remember, you deserve to work in peace.
And remember to follow this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Substack. Plus, send us your story or your question at workplacebullyingproject.com.
We'll see you next time, and we'll work it out together.